Okay, so you are welcome back, everybody. So this is day 2. Okay, so yesterday we spent a lot of hours talking about first aid. We started with the definitions, and we also looked at some of the important concepts, what you need to do this very well. Okay, I hope you still remember the definition of first aid. Okay, first aid is basic care or emergency care. So giving to who? Ill or injured person. So when somebody is ill or somebody is injured as a result of emergency, remember that emergency is something that can happen unplanned. You don't plan emergency. It can just happen. And of course, emergency has some bitter taste and can also go from bad to worse if you don't do anything. So usually one of the things we are expected to do is to help the person. And of course it's voluntary. Okay, that's the reason why you need to seek consent. Okay, you have to introduce yourself. My name is this, I am trained in first aid, can I help you? And remember we have 2 types of consents. Yeah? Voluntary and implied. So voluntary, you expect voluntary from an adult, somebody who can make decision independently, who is the right frame of mind, okay, and who is accountable. You can hold the person accountable for the decision the person has made. Okay, so you have to give me voluntary consent. I don't have to force you. I don't have to persuade you. But I am willing to help you. So all I need is your consent. So implied consent is used in a situation where somebody cannot give consent because the person is unconscious. So another case is a baby. Okay. If a baby is in need and no family member is around that baby, so you can use implied consent in that case because baby cannot say yes or no. Okay. And yesterday, remember that we also talked about the steps you have to follow when you do first aid. And that was covered under emergency scene management. And emergency scene management was, yesterday you were made to know that is the foundation of this course. So emergency scene management is the foundation. So the training is like a building, a house. And that house must have a formidable foundation. And foundation is that emergency scene management. Remember that emergency scene management is series of activities you do when you perform first aid. Series. And the objective is to lessen the impact of that emergency. So anything you do within the scope of first aid, and your objective is to lessen the impact of the emergency on the patient, that belongs to emergency scene management. So it's a process. So I consider first aid a process. So you can divide process into different sessions. step by step. So first aid is a step-by-step way of lessening the impact of emergency on the patient. So you have step 1. Remember yesterday we saw different steps. There are 4 of them, okay, like that. So you climb. So it's like a ladder. You start from step 1. You keep on moving until you get to step number 4. So you have step 1 here, step 1, and step 2. Then you have step 3, and then you have step 4. So this is how I can describe emergency scene management. Okay, so here is scene survey. Yeah, scene survey. So this is the starting point. Scene survey, primary survey. Okay, primary survey. Secondary survey. Yes, secondary survey. And ongoing patient care. Ongoing patient care. So those are the trajectory. First aid trajectory. So you start from here and then you aim toward step 4. You may not reach here. It depends on, let's assume it's a major emergency. And then you have called 911. And they have told you that they are coming. And then you expected to start providing first aid as you keep on moving up. So they may meet you somewhere along this road. Okay, and then when they meet you somewhere, you are expected to give them a handover note. So that, yes, handover note is where you tell them what you have done, or in fact what happened, the situation. Briefly, tell them, summarize what you have been dealing with, what have you done, and then they take it from there and then do the rest. Okay, but where it takes them some time to come, you may actually make it up to this level. Okay, so remember that scene survey is where you scan the area for your safety. Remember that is also where you take your protection into account. Yesterday we talked about how to do that. The most basic one, hand washing, the gloves. Remember the gloves? Yeah. We did, yes, gloves and all that. So you need that. So at this level, you think about your safety. You think about protecting yourself. And you also think about obtaining consent. Those are the 3 key things. In addition to you trying to know how many people are affected, you also want to know what may have caused that. You also want to know if there are people around. You can yell for help to draw their attention. So that is when so it's like the beginning of the journey. So this is where the first aid journey begins. So you, in doing that, you want to make sure that safety is guaranteed. You are not going to be a second victim, because if you don't consider this, if you skip this, you may become another victim. Remember, there are hazards everywhere. Hazard is anything that can cause harm or death, and they are everywhere. Even in this class now, if you look around, there may be hazards, so you have to be very, very careful even when you are walking. The floor could be slippery. Okay? We can have wet floor. There are many things when you walk on the road. The moving vehicles, they are all hazards. The snow on the ground is the hazards. The hazard when you are cooking, the kitchen knife you use, the boiling water. So hazards everywhere. So that's the reason why you have to take that very, very seriously. And of course, primary survey. So once this is clear, okay, everything is good here, you now progress to primary survey. Remember that primary survey is the heart. That is the heart of first aid. It's like the compass of first aid. It takes you the direction that your first aid should be heading to. So it's, you know they work on GPS. So this is like GPS. You put the address, and then GPS will be able to navigate you. So this is where you get an idea of the direction you may be heading. By quickly, so it's rapid assessment of the patient. Rapid, quick assessment. So you don't waste too much time here. You quickly assess. And remember that when you do that assessment, there is one thing at the back of your mind, whether your patient is facing any life-threatening condition. So primary survey is a quick assessment of the patient. Okay, quick assessment of the patient to determine if the patient is in any life-threatening condition. And in doing that, you need to assess four important elements, four important variables. Remember yesterday we used R, A, B, C. R, A, B, C. R, A, B, C. R is responsiveness, right?
Yeah.
Remember responsiveness, airway, breathing, and what? Circulation. So those are the four important elements, area you must assess, and that is quickly. So the outcome on this assessment will determine if what you are dealing with here is life-threatening or not. Remember we said yesterday that any emergency that affects any of these, an emergency that affects any of these is considered what? Life-threatening condition. Yes. So, responsiveness, are you okay? Can you hear me? You tap the shoulder. So you see whether the person is able to respond to the stimuli of voice and touch. Those two stimuli should be enough to assess that. You see whether the person moves or whether the person reacts in any way to those. Airway. Remember that the airway connects the nostrils to the lungs. So that is the passage through which breathing happens. So anything that comes, if the emergency touches the airway, that has placed the person in life-threatening situation. Because that is the only route through which breathing happens. You take oxygen through that route, the airway. Okay? And then breathing, you also check the person's breathing. Is it normal? So if you were to count the breathing, how many times is this person breathing in 1 minute? And for an adult, we say between 12 and 20. Okay? Not only that, you also want to consider the quality of the breathing. Okay? What's the quality? Is it effortless? Is it noisy? The person laboring to breathe. Laboring to breathe. So all those things you take into consideration. Okay, and then you come to circulation. So circulation, you are looking at skin, the person's skin, okay, skin color, skin